Welcome back, everyone. We're diving deep today into some pretty thought-provoking stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It's all about philosophy and creativity and, well, really getting to know yourself.
Sounds intense.
It is. Have you ever felt like, there's all this noise in the world?
All the time.
Right. It's like
Yeah.
our brains are constantly bombarded.
Ah.
But this text we're looking at, it argues that by tuning into, like, philosophers and creative thinkers, people who, challenge the norm, we can cut through some of that noise.
Makes sense. Those are the folks who often help us see things in a new light.
Exactly. And this excerpt, it doesn't shy away from the big questions, like the really big ones.
Like what?
Like, what's the meaning of life? Why are we here? That kind of stuff.
Whoa, yeah, the deep stuff.
And it mentions thinkers like Kierkegaard
Oh, wow.
and Carl Jung, who are all about confronting that existential reality
Head on.
head on.
Not for the faint of heart.
No, not at all. But the excerpt suggests that one way to explore these questions is through meditation.
Meditation.
Yeah, but not just for, like, relaxation.
Right.
It's more like using your mind to simulate different possibilities in life.
So interesting.
So before you take action in the real world, you can kind of play it out in your head.
Like a mental dress rehearsal.
Oh, exactly. I like that.
Yeah.
But it goes even further. It also talks about the emotional side of creativity.
Okay. How so?
It argues that true creatives often may express, like, the pain and sorrow of humanity through their work.
Yeah, I can see that. Think about some of the most powerful art. It often comes from a place of deep emotion.
Exactly. And it makes you think.
About how we engage with art.
Yeah.
And wisdom. Are we just passive consumers?
Just looking for a quick hit of inspiration.
Or are we willing to, really go there with the emotions that art can evoke?
Allow ourselves to be challenged, even uncomfortable.
Exactly. Because sometimes that discomfort is where the real growth happens. And then this excerpt, it hits us with some questions. Questions like what?
They're like these deep, probing questions designed to make us confront some intentionally uncomfortable truths about ourselves.
Okay. Like what kind of truths?
Well, the first one is, what truths within yourself do you avoid confronting, and why?
Whoa. That is, that's getting right to it.
Right. It's like, what are we not willing to see about ourselves?
And why are we so resistant to those parts?
Exactly. And it's easy to just focus on the positive.
Right. Put on a happy face.
But this excerpt is saying real self-awareness
Yeah.
requires us to acknowledge those darker aspects of ourselves, too.
I see. Otherwise, it's like building a house on a shaky foundation.
Exactly. And then the next question, it builds on that. It asks, what comments, statements, or labels would you not want to hear?
Okay. That's interesting. It's not about dwelling on negativity, is it?
No, not really. It's more about recognizing our sensitivities.
I see, yeah. And exploring why certain things trigger us. Figure out why they get under our skin.
Exactly. If we can understand those triggers, maybe we can start to, dismantle them.
Become less reactive.
Yeah. But then the excerpt shifts gears a bit and asks, when was the last time you let yourself truly hear with your soul what the world around you is truly saying?
Hear with your soul. That's powerful.
Right. It's like a reminder to pay attention to those subtle signals.
Not just the noise.
Exactly. Are we truly listening? Or are we just filtering everything through our own, preconceived notions?
It's so easy to do that. Get caught up in our own heads.
It is. And I think that leads to the next question, which might be the most challenging one of all. It asks, what would change if you allowed your inner world to guide your outer perceptions first, before labeling, reacting, resisting, assuming, consuming, even at the cost of being misunderstood?
Wow. Okay. That's a lot to unpack.
It is. But it's basically saying, what if we paused before reacting to everything based on, our pre-programmed responses?
And let our intuition lead the way.
Yeah. Trust that inner voice.
That takes a lot of courage, though, doesn't it?
It does, because it means letting go of that need to control and predict everything.
Right. Embracing the unknown. And that's where the next question comes in, right?
You got it. It asks, when have you been courageous beyond your current beliefs and knowing what the world you see is really like?
So it's about those times when we dared to step outside our comfort zones, even when we didn't have all the answers.
Exactly. Taking that leap of faith and trusting that we'll figure it out along the way.
Which honestly can be terrifying, but exciting too, right?
Totally. And the excerpt suggests that embracing uncertainty is actually the key to unlocking a whole new level of awareness. Like it asks, What if you had let go of even a tiny thing of certainty to practice knowing what you can learn from not trying to know it before re-experiencing it and realizing the uniqueness of each moment?
Okay, that's a bit of a mind bender, but I think I'm getting it.
It's about being present, open to new experiences.
Without needing to define or categorize them right away.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I don't have all the answers, and that's okay.
Let's just see what happens.
Exactly.
So we've been doing a lot of looking inward.
Yeah. A lot of introspection.
But this text, Leteti Texti, it doesn't just, leave us there in our own little bubbles.
Right.
It wants us to take all those insights, those uncomfortable truths, the uncertainty, and apply them to how we interact with the world.
Yeah. Especially with all the tech stuff happening.
All the AI, all the rapid advancements.
One thing that really struck me was this idea of sharing wisdom freely.
Freely.
Without that fear of, depletion.
It is interesting. We often think of knowledge as this thing to be guarded,
Right.
protected.
Hoarded, like a dragon guarding its treasure. But what if it's more like a well?
Oh, well.
Yeah, the more you draw from it, the more it overflows.
I like that. It's a very different mindset
Yeah.
than, competition, scarcity.
Right. It's about abundance. And then Leteti Texti goes on to question this whole idea of alpha authorities.
Alpha authorities, those at the top of the knowledge pyramid.
Yeah. And it argues that true knowledge creation, it's more collaborative. Everyone has something to contribute.
So we should be questioning everything, even the experts.
Exactly. And this is where I think your perspective will be really valuable. Because the source then kind of shifts gears. It offers a more critical perspective on personal growth.
Oh, how so?
It specifically talks about the limitations of, relying solely on positive affirmations.
Yeah.
And those external motivators.
Yes. While those things can be helpful, it's true that real transformation requires more than just surface-level changes.
Right. It's got to go deeper.
We have to take responsibility for our own growth, do the hard work of facing our shadows.
So it's like saying positive affirmations are like putting a Band-Aid.
On a bullet wound.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It might make you feel better temporarily,
Yeah.
but it's not going to address the root cause.
And Leteti Texti goes on to warn about the dangers of neglecting our shadow selves.
Our biases, our ignorance.
Not just individually, but also on a societal level.
Right. Like our individual shadows can contribute to collective problems if we're not careful.
And to really drive this point home,
Yeah.
the source introduces this metaphor of the predator consciousness.
Okay. I'm listening.
It's predator consciousness, like
Yeah.
a force that thrives in the absence of self-awareness. It's driven by blind ambition,
Thirst for power.
total disregard for ethics. It just exploits opportunities without any care for the consequences.
It sounds almost like a primal instinct unleashed.
Exactly. And Leteti Texti argues that this predator consciousness is becoming more and more prevalent in our world, especially with the rise of technology.
Right. AI, all that. So if this predator consciousness is so deeply rooted in our nature, how do we even begin to address it?
Well, the excerpt suggests that we need to understand its origin, look back at our evolutionary history,
Okay.
and recognize that these predatory tendencies, they're part of our heritage. We can't just pretend they don't exist or try to, wipe them out completely.
So instead of denying them,
we're suppressing them.
we need to find a way to integrate them into our modern consciousness in a healthy way.
Like taming the beast within.
Exactly. And the excerpt emphasizes that. This integration requires humility.
Recognizing and appreciating our weaknesses, not just focusing on our strengths.
Right. Like our imperfections. They're part of what make us human. It's through those struggles
Yeah.
that we learn and grow.
Instead of chasing some unrealistic ideal of perfection.
Yeah. So it's about being gentle with ourselves. We're all works in progress. But Leteti Texti doesn't stop there
It offers a warning.
about what can happen if we don't acknowledge this predator side of ourselves.
It says, the other side of this happens when we neglect to see and take seriously the predator side in our consciousness and end up working with the fires afterward. We can't just ignore these things.
Wow. That's powerful. Like, if we don't address these challenges now, proactively, we're going to have to deal with the consequences later.
Exactly. And those consequences could be pretty disastrous.
This is heavy stuff,
It is.
but important.
Yeah.
We need to be aware of these potential pitfalls of our own nature and this rapidly changing world.
Only then can we start to, navigate these challenges wisely.
And create a future that's
Yeah.
more aligned with our values.
Right. So that brings us to the concluding message of Leteti Texti. It's a call to action for humanity as we face this,
Increasingly complex world.
with all its wonders and its dangers.
Okay, so we're back for the final part of our deep dive into Leteti Texti. And let me tell you, this thing really goes there.
How so?
It takes all those big ideas,
Yeah.
self-awareness, shadow selves, that predator consciousness,
Right.
and throws them right into the messiness of the modern world.
Especially with all the tech stuff.
Yeah, AI, social media, all of it. And it's not exactly optimistic.
You're saying it's a warning.
Kind of, yeah.
Yes.
It's like saying, be careful. Technology's evolving faster than our wisdom, than our sense of responsibility.
Okay, so not the robots taking over kind of warning.
No. It's more like our own unchecked desires, our ambition.
Amplified by technology.
Exactly. And that could lead to, well, some pretty bad outcomes.
It specifically mentions the potential for
Yeah.
side effects instead of a healthy democracy.
So it's not just about individuals then.
No, it's about society as a whole, our systems being vulnerable to
Manipulation.
by those with, that predator mindset.
Okay, that's kind of scary. So what do we do if this predator instinct is so ingrained?
The excerpt really stresses deep self-inquiry. Like, it's not enough to just be aware. We have to be aware of our awareness.
I'm trying to wrap my head around that.
Right. It's like awareness squared.
Yeah, maybe.
We need to confront our biases, our fears, those judgments.
Not just ignore them.
Or project them onto other people. We need to really understand ourselves, how our minds work. And it talks about meditation.
Right. That can help with awareness.
It can, but it needs to be combined with a deep understanding of the self. Otherwise,
It could just create empty awareness, which can actually be really dangerous.
How so?
Because it leaves you open to manipulation, influence.
So it's like giving someone a powerful tool without teaching them how to use it.
Exactly. And then it comes back to that predator consciousness. We have to understand where it comes from.
Our evolutionary past.
Exactly. It's part of our heritage. So we can't just...
Get rid of it.
Right. We have to learn to live with it, integrate it into our modern lives in a healthy way.
Find a way to coexist.
Exactly. And that involves, accepting our weaknesses as much as our strengths.
Not trying to be perfect.
Right. Because those imperfections, those struggles, they're what make us human.
And that brings us to, it's a call to action.
So all of us.
Step up. Cultivate wisdom. Responsibility.
Because the choices we make today, they're going to shape the world of tomorrow.
Powerful stuff.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want you to think about how these ideas apply to your life, your work, your relationship. How can you become more self-aware? Embrace your imperfections. Use your knowledge responsibly.
The future's unfolding right now, and we all have a part to play. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.